Right, good evening councillors and member of the public. Welcome to the Asset Transfer Committee meeting of Bexhill Town Council. Tonight you have the delights of me chairing this meeting in the absence of the usual chair, Councillor Brailsford, so I'm chairing this as deputy of this committee. So we'll move on to item 1, which is public participation. We have a councillor in the public. Do you wish to have anything to say to the asset transfer? Thank you. Then we'll move on to item number 2, apologies for absence. Do we have any apologies for absence,
we
please?
do. So we've got Councillor Brailsford, who's got another engagement, Councillor Ruston, who's at work, along with Councillor L. Councillor Hussain was trying to get back from work, so I assume he hasn't been able to make it back. And no news from Councillor Carroll as yet. Okay,
thank you. So we are somewhat short tonight, but we do have a quorum so the meeting can carry on. Item 3 is to receive declarations of pecuniary and non-pecuniary interest. Do we have any of those between the three of us? No? Thank you. Item 4 is Chair's announcement. I have no announcements. Item 5 is the minutes of the last meeting held on the 13th of March. I just need a proposer and a seconder that we can accept these as a true record. Proposer, Councillor Plim, seconder, Councillor Goss. Thank you. That just says initial.
Yep, so your initial, both pages, at the bottom of each page, and then you sign and date on the last page.
Yeah, thank you. So item 6 is titled Public Conveniences. 6A1 is to note the full council decision on the recommendation that this committee made that it was resolved for the consultancy at £1,000. So that's good news after some further debate. So I was pleased that that was eventually resolved. 6A2 is the cleaning and maintenance specification, which has been distributed as Appendix B, which is probably going to be one of the major discussion points of tonight's meeting. At the last meeting, our clerk was asked to go away and come up with a specification which has been produced. So it's really open to the debate between us as to what we think of it. Is it reasonable, bearing in mind that the cleaning contract goes live on the 1st of May, and whatever decision we make about this tonight then has to go to full council for them to approve it, so there will be potentially a period of delay where we may not have, well, we won't have a facility management company in place because we've then got to go out to tender, etc, etc. So, Councillor Goss.
Just clarify, cleaning and maintenance specification, but the cleaning specification's already been done and tendered.
Yes.
So this is just a maintenance specification.
As the heading says on the actual document,
yeah.
General maintenance and repairs specification.
So is it intended to try and get the cleaning company to do this, or to go out again for another tender?
I believe we're going to go out for another tender because this is for sort of emergencies that happen, like water leaks, damage, that type of incident, that as we move forward it's unreasonable for our clerk to have her phone number there as an example, which we spoke about at the last meeting. So we need to professionalise it and get a company.
Yeah, I was going to ask, what is the contact expected of them? Are they expected to provide 24-hour coverage, and is it for the public to contact them from a notice in the toilets, or what?
So that's for us to define in the strategy of this document.
Yeah.
If that's what we want, then that's what we would put forward to full council. So my thought would be it should be 24 hours. Do we agree with that?
Yes. Yeah.
Because we can't guarantee when the water's going to leak.
No. No.
It says in here about a phone number being provided for the company. I've seen that, which is good. My only concern is I think we need to understand they can put in a temporary fix, but it's how do we need like a service level agreement in there to say they've got to feed it back in 24 hours to enable us to then potentially go out to tender if something is going to cost more than what is
I was going to
town
say, are
grants.
we going to provide them with a budget and say immediate repair up to £100 or something, and after that it comes back? I mean, if somebody has kicked apart all the pans or something like that, as idiots do,
Yeah.
then it's obviously going to be quite a sum possibly for replacement.
I would see something like that as they would make it safe, potentially close that
Cap the
cubicle off,
water.
cap the water off, and then report back to the clerk to then make the decision whether it's considered to be an emergency within her remit of. There's a figure I believe it's £500 that our clerk can spend on fixing something. So we've got those parameters in place as to what the clerk can do. It's just what time scale we want that type of thing. Councillor Pym.
Would we need to put those type of parameters on to this company? So if they spot something that needs fixing, are we going to say to them, only go up to the certain value before you then report back? Or are we giving them carte blanche to sort of fix any repairs as quickly as possible and keep the toilets open as much as possible?
I think it's up to us.
And how do we scope that into this document?
How do we put that in there?
Yeah.
I think we would have to probably give our clerk a remit to make sure that everything we want in there tonight is put in there before it goes to full council. So if we want the facilities management to go out there and make safe or put everything right, that's two different scenarios.
Exactly,
It's make it safe or fix
That's
it.
why I was sort of saying, make safe, if you call it that, up to £100 immediate repair budget. From there, refer to the clerk. Make safe, cap off and refer to the clerk. So if the ball valves go or something gets cracked and they can do that, say £100 budget, whatever, they just go and do that immediately. Whereas if it's something more severe, then they make safe and refer to the clerk.
Okay. I'll seek advice. Would we be able to put something in there like that?
Yeah, through you, Chair, that's what you'd be looking for, really. It's like an emergency call-out, wouldn't be an emergency go and repair it. An emergency call-out would be go out, make it safe, then come back to us and report what's happened, and then we've got an opportunity to get quotes, because it might not be something that's quick to fix. So it's kind of compare it to your home emergency cover. When you phone your insurance and they come out and they'll stop the leak, but they won't repair it, then they'll go away, get quotes, and then talk to you about how much it costs to repair it. So there's two parts to this spec. There's the general maintenance, your planned maintenance, them coming out and doing checks and making sure everything's in order. Then there's the call out of an emergency, which is make safe, and then get us some figures to talk about.
So we wouldn't be expecting them to necessarily fix it, but having said that, if it was a simple fix, it would probably be more cost effective if they got a ball valve in their van to do it there and then rather than pay someone else to.
Suggesting
And
fixed level.
I think that's what you get with a lot of sort of gas supply companies. If they've got something to fix on a radiator, they'll fix it and inside that package. But I'm not sure how we would put that in here. Councillor Pym.
No doubt by putting this spec out, we're soliciting companies to come to us, and the more professional company will come with their contracts already made up, because they would have been used to this sort of dealing before, and then we can ascertain what level of service they are going to provide us with. So if someone comes to us and says, oh, well, I don't know, I'm not too sure, blah, 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 then they're going to not fare as well as some that comes to us and says, well, here's our standard contract that we use for this type of services, and then we can ascertain what level of service they're offering us.
So what I'm hearing really is there's two things to think about putting in here, is to say 24-hour coverage, and the initial is to make the place safe.
Yes.
And then come back to the town council. And then, as Councillor Pym says, they may come to us with a different opportunity to make it even cheaper for us, and that would be their selling point within their contract. And okay.
Is it going through this? Do we need monthly and quarterly? I mean, basically, if they sort of go in monthly and see anything, that takes out quarterly anyway. They'll be there every month anyway. and things like test and calibrate automatic systems, the flushing, that sort of thing. The actual flushing of urinals is something that I've never known checked quarterly. You're lucky if it's checked ever. But that's just one thing. A detailed instruction of the building structure is when we know it's falling apart. We've got a survey of that. Do we want them to offer to re-roof and whatever else?
So that we wouldn't want them to do that at the moment, because we've got the consultancy to come up with some designs over a bronze, silver and gold type toilet. Until we've nailed that, this is about getting the company in place. And I think my concern's always been, historically, there hasn't been any checks on any of the toilets, which is why some of them are in not a great condition. So some of these monthly, quarterly and annual tasks may be a little bit over the top, but it depends on what their price is. If they price for each one of them, we may choose, when they quote for it, to remove some of them. That I don't know. They might just, depends on how many they've got and what other work they've got in this area.
Yeah. There are certain health and safety precautions to be taken on a regular basis. One of which tributes to this would be the Legionnaires checks that they do. So that would be done. Some of them are on a monthly basis. Yeah. No doubt, some items here will be regularly flushed, but we could get taps that are not used, and so therefore, having them into the monthly check means that we at least are checking that tap is open, running, and water's flowing through that pipework. And so that's why those sort of checks are in place. And like I said before, by putting this out there, those companies will come back to us with that regime.
They would.
And we will then look at them, be able to compare them with like for like from different companies.
Yeah, if they're going to give a different price for the monthly, the quarterly and that sort of thing.
The other thing I thought of, which I'm not sure that falls into this remit, is whether they should be reading the water meter, because it's a good indicator whether you've got a water leak underground, in between the water meter and where the water is used. And I've known water leaks that have cost tens of thousands of pounds in water supply because no one's been reading the meter, and it would then take an item away from our own staff that would otherwise have to go and read that meter. And if they're going there anyway, then maybe we could add that in.
Do our staff ever read the meter? Normally it's left to the water company, and if there's anything like South East Water doing mine, they read it sort of every couple of years unless you complain, and they just send you an estimated cost in between.
It depends which water company you have. There are some that only have customers' own readings. They don't come out and read it. There's one, I can't remember the name, it's based in Scotland, and it's for a non-commercial.
I residential. With South East Water.
This is a non-commercial. It's a commercial rather than non-commercial, which puts a different. I don't know. Maybe we should. Maybe we shouldn't. But
Judy, do you know? I'm going to ask you how meter readings done at the moment, if they're done, or if South East Water just do them and bill you.
Right. So the meter readings are taken by Rother District Council officers. So we'll do a meter reading with them on handover. So we'll go out there together and we'll read the meter together and we'll log that, and then we'll need to do regular meter readings in order to check, just like Councillor Wilson said, there's no leaking, there's no issues with the billing, so we need to manage the water bills.
So you wouldn't necessarily have it under the facilities
management? No, but we can do if you'd like to, because
it
saves me one job, doesn't it? So that would help me. So I could put it in for them to do quarterly meter readings for us.
I think so, because then it's all in the same remit, and it's one thing that I know this one is only just up the road, but it depends upon devolution of other services. It could be a bigger job than, and if they're going there anyway, I think. So that's all I'm hearing is 3 things to add to it somewhere, and then take it to full council.
Yep.
Unless anyone else has any other comments.
No, can I? I mean, on toilets and.
Well, Councillor Goss, you said no, and then you started talking.
No. Has there been any development on it? We're taking this over. do we get a proportion of the SIL money that was offered for taking over toilets?
I'll come on to that.
Right.
We've had a little bit of confirmation about something, so I'll come on to that. So let's leave the subject on this
Okay.
draft spec first. Have we done that? Are we all happy with what's in here for now?
Yes.
Would it be a rolling 1-year contract?
It's up to you. It's up to you.
I guess if they don't do what it says on the tin, they would lose their job anyway, so it would just be a contract. Okay? Right, that's that one done. That is 6A2. Consider creating a business plan strategy. Now, that's been on here since I've been a town councillor, and we haven't actually really talked about it. I don't propose to talk about it tonight, because as we all know, there's a visioning exercise, and I think potentially that could be put in there as a strategy, and then write a business plan depending upon what strategy we have, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I think we really need that more if we take over any more in this sort of thing.
Okay. So item 6C is to note the response from Rother District Council regarding the trial closure and date referring councillors to Rother District Council website. That followed the last meeting where we asked our clerk to write to Rother asking them what the plans were, and they just directed us to a Q&A on their website and one other page, which I personally found not that helpful, but I guess they are where they are and we are where we are. It merges in with item 6D, which is a leaders meeting that was held last Friday. So I'm going to merge both of what I'm going to say into the one answer, if you like. The toilets were discussed at length. Some of the developments that have happened in the past, what's happened in the and what Rother District plan is for now. They are still working with a few community groups for the toilets, particularly around the Bowls, Manor Barn and a couple of others, but they are remaining steadfast in their understanding of their policy and their legal advice that they will only release them in the form of a leasehold. So what Lynn Brailsford, Councillor Lynn Brailsford, asked them is to write to us as a town council with complete affirmation as to what they are going to do, and they will be following their process which they have, which will be to get best consideration for the toilets. Now, I have to be a little bit careful about the next piece as to what I'm going to say, but I'll wrap it into one conversation that they have employed a facilities manager to go round and look at all of their sites that they own, and that includes all of the toilets in Rother and any other single asset, to ensure that they're A, being used for the right purpose, and B, receiving the right amount of income from that site, and that's including all the properties they've got in Wainwright Road, the office block out on the and all the other things that they've got in rural Rother. He's only been there a week and he's got halfway through it already, so, and he is I'm not sure he's a chartered or a structural surveyor, so he's a member of Ariba, so he knows what he's talking about, and they've employed him to make sure that they are getting the right value for money, and that does involve the toilets. They are still robustly saying that they will not release them in freeholds, but they will be writing to our clerk. It's likely that the toilets that aren't open now may well be considered by other people to be used as potentially something else than a toilet. I won't say the toilet, but there is one company that has expressed an interest in taking a lease on one of their toilets to use as something other than a toilet. So bearing that in mind, the likelihood is that we will have to call an extraordinary meeting, which that will be down to our chairman, but we've got to wait for the correspondence to come through from Rother first, because we need to deal with this once and for all, because it's been going on for so long. The point that Councillor Goss made about SIL money, that was mentioned and proportionately we will still receive the seal money for the toilets that we take over. I raised the questions around, there seems to be an awful delay in getting a lease from Rother for Channel View East, and there's been some problems because they didn't have a land registry plan for that site, so they've had to go and get one created, which has taken some time, but I'm assured that the lease will be with our clerk probably by the end of April. There are also some issues over sending us a bill for the cleaning that they've done under our third-party arrangement over Devonshire Square. We haven't had a bill yet for that. So we've got the money in the bank, it's just they haven't presented us with a bill for us to pay them. I'm told that will be done around about the same time. So that is the advantage of having meetings with Rother, because you can ask these questions and you get an answer there and then. So that's where the toilets are right now, and we're waiting for correspondence from Rother. And as soon as we get that, we can then move it forward to decide what we are going to do. It's only my opinion, but we can't keep talking about toilets for another 3 years. So we have to deal with it. We have to think about our residents, and that's not. It will come to this committee first in the new remit, and then go to full council. So we're probably a couple of months away from actually nailing it, but we have to deal with it somehow. So that's where it all is, which is why I think the seal rolls into it. But so yes, they have said that it will be a proportion of whichever ones we take. So suddenly we've got 2 out of the 13 or 14, so we will get
potentially dependent on lease.
Yeah. I'll go to Councillor Pym first because his hand went up first. Councillor Pym.
It was refreshing to learn from a meeting that myself and Councillor Brailsford attended last week that the other towns and parishes in the district are having the same discussion with Rother District Council, that they too would like freeholds. They can see the benefit of freeholds, and they too are being told at the moment they are not contemplating freeholds.
No.
But it's also nice to know that they are looking elsewhere and looking for other companies to other organisations to sort of utilise these buildings, and hopefully some of them will be utilising them in the form of toilets as well, as other activities they wish to pursue there as well, because that is only to the benefit of the taxpayer as well. I think at the moment it's a holding period until we get further information by
Correct.
the sounds of things.
Correct.
But I would like to sort of express a concern about how long it's taking to get the toilet on the seafront sorted out to us of that. And you highlighted the fact that they didn't have the land registry.
Yeah.
It begs the question: is this the same case for all the others?
I can't answer that, Councillor Pym, because we were only talking about the 2 that we were doing things with.
Okay.
It's possible. I don't know, and I think it just highlights that the toilets really have just been there, and they've just been sort of clean for the last X amount of years, and nobody's really managed them as such. Because otherwise you would have a manager to look after them, and they would have all of that information.
Exactly.
So,
exactly.
but it's good, and they were very honest, and they said what we didn't want to do was hand Channel View East over to the town council. The town council then realised there was no land registry, and then we would have to foot the bill for that, which, having had one done myself, is about £400 or £500. So we're not at least covering the cost of that, which was comforting. So, and I think you are right. It is a waiting game, and we've got to wait for further correspondence. Councillor Goss.
To make the point that with Devonshire Square, there have been a number of complaints about the cleaning standards of what's going on there, and if we're paying RDC for doing it, they need to be checking it's being done properly.
So my understanding is they do, but whether they are as prudent as they could be, I don't know. But the good news is it will be under our remit from the 1st of May to check on the contractors that we've appointed. So,
and presumably that's going to be a job for our administration staff.
Yes. Yeah.
So another thing they have to cover.
So I don't think there's anything else to really there's E and F, but that gives a summary of where the toilet situation is. So under 6F, E, to note no further updates on requests from Normans Bay Residents Association. So I'm not quite sure where we are with Normans Bay and their toilets, because they came here 3 months ago. We directed them to Rother, and Rother have directed them back to us. So my understanding is that they are keen to investigate the operating and the looking after, but it's money. So unless I've misunderstood that, perhaps I can ask our clerk.
Yeah, that's how it is.
Okay, so do we want to discuss potentially us funding the cleaning of that and taking that on a lease, or do we want to put that into the overall remit and wait for the correspondence from Rother? Councillor Pym.
Yes, I'd rather wait until further correspondence comes, purely because we have a situation where, on one hand, Rother is saying to us, oh, we've got people coming to us wanting to run the toilets.
Yeah.
And on the other hand, they're turning people away that come to them that want to run the toilets. I can't understand what their policy is over this.
There's a slight difference. This was to run it as a toilet. Rother are now saying that
exactly.
Someone else that wants to run it as another site run as something else. So Normans Bay residents want the benefit of having that toilet kept there, but they don't have the funds it's going to cost to do it. So it's a catch-22 really. They want to be responsible for it, but they haven't got the money to do it.
Given the relatively modern condition of that toilet, a lot of the other ones we're talking about, Victorian ones, which are intertwined into other buildings and whatnot. This is a standalone breeze block affair. It could be relatively easy for that freehold to be transferred over to us after best consideration process has taken place, because I very much doubt if anyone else would want to use that particular site for anything else. And if they can follow the best consideration process and then consider passing the freehold on to us, then that will help the residents of Normans Bay Association, if Rother are not willing to talk to them about it.
They won't pass on the freehold to any other organisation or anyone at the moment. We have to bear in mind that in the projected estimated cost for refurb, that particular toilet was 42,000, which was one of the dearer ones. It was the second in the list of costs. So we have to bear that in mind, but I tend to support the thought process of Councillor Pym, which is to leave it until we've got the document from Rother, and then we can throw it into the same pack.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay.
I can't understand why Rother would redirect them back to us when they still own it. If they've got a CIC or whatever Normans Bay is,
they're not a CIC, they're just an association.
Well, okay, I think we said they should set themselves up as a CIC and take it over, and presumably they would then be entitled to the proportion for that one of the sewer money, which would help them out with running it.
But they don't have any money. That's it. That's their issue. They want them there. They're happy to be involved in them remaining open in some remit, but they don't have the money that's needed to do it. So the only way that that can happen for the benefit of the residents and visitors to Normans Bay is for someone else to pay for it. And Rother don't have the money to pay for it, which is why...
But if Rother give them the proportion of the CIC, the 14th of 200 grand or whatever it was, then it gives them some money.
It could do, yeah.
A minute piece of money compared to the 20 millions of pounds that's been given to this town to spend by people that are unelected. No doubt they should be making some sort of representation to the town board or the other bodies that have got this money, or even straight to Hugh Merriman and ask him.
Interesting, because most of that is for capital projects rather than maintenance. So some of it could be on capital project of refurbishing something, but it wouldn't be able to be on the running costs, and potentially the SIL money could cover the refurbishment, but they would still be stuck with the running costs which they don't have. And it's only for 6 months of the year when there's more people there than the rest of the time.
So on the point that Councillor Pym raises, I noticed in Hastings yesterday, and I noticed newspaper headlines there that there are a lot of complaints about and planning on taking some of this 20 million that Hastings are getting to finish the road that they should have been funding anyway and building. So
can we keep on track with the
Yeah.
agenda, please? That's not for us
Just
to really
went on.
talk about. Yeah. So item 6F, you read the information that came from Bragg, Bexhill Rail Action Group, who were disappointed with Coot-and-Sea Road, and they're asking us. That, I think, is exactly the same, that we've got to wait until such time as, yes, it's unfortunate that there aren't any other toilets in Cooten railway station, but there are on trains, but we are where we are until we get the information clarified from Rother. Do we agree with that?
Yes.
Good. Okay. I'll move on to item 7, CCTV. To note, we're waiting meeting dates from Sussex Police. I don't suppose there's any update on that, is there?
Not yet.
No. Okay, thank you. And to note that the new cameras have been installed and are in action. So that's good news. The handover, I'm not sure whether it's happened yet completely, is it, Julie?
Through you, Chair, we haven't had anything yet, so
Okay.
we're waiting for a meeting with the police to find out what
Okay.
needs to happen.
So that's a work in progress. But the good news on item 8 is that the bus shelters has been transferred to the Town Council, and that contract that was there before is remaining in place until such time as in the future the Amenities Committee decide on what they're going to do with the bus shelters. So they're still being cleaned and maintained as they were before. It's just they're our responsibility. And if you haven't checked, the error that there was on the council tax has now been amended on Rother District Council's website. It does show us 0 on the Rother District Council council charge for this year.
are they going to amend it in my community charge?
It was never wrong in the community charge, it was only just an appearance.
Well, they managed to increase it by 6% in putting it down, so they must have been thinking about it and increased it.
I would suggest that you ask Rother District Council.
Well, I raised it the last FGP. I
Okay.
thought the council were going to do something, but I'll do it.
Okay, and finally, to note, full council decision to transfer terms of reference to the Amenities Committee as of May next year. So, is this the last meeting of the asset transfer? So this is the very last meeting that we have as a group under the Asset Transfer Committee. So, unless anybody has anything else or any questions to note for the next meeting, I will close this meeting at 6:35. Meeting closed.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Right, okay. Good evening, welcome to the Climate, Nature Environment Committee for Bexhill-on-Sea Town Council. And it's Wednesday the 17th of April, and you join us for a meeting here this evening. Unfortunately, it's a depleted committee we have here at the moment. There are 3 of us here at the moment, 3 vacancies on the committee, and we've had 1 person not show up. So in case any of you are watching and realising when there's only 3 councillors here. We have on the agenda the first item, public participation. We have no members of the public present at the moment other than the person that's going to be giving us a presentation later on. I will ask them whether they wish to say anything in the public participation.
Okay.
No. Okay, thank you. And item 2 is to receive apologies for absence. Have we got an apology for the absence? No, we have no apology received. Item 3 to receive declarations of interest. Councillor Drayson.
Standing on Chair, member of Rother District Council.
All duly noted, thank you very much. Item 4, Chairman's announcements. I have no announcements to make, other than just to ask councillors if they can switch their mobile phones off rather than silent, because it's interfering with the transmission, apparently. Item 5, minutes of the 28th of February. Am I authorised to sign these off as a correct account of that meeting? I take it that there's only Councillor Thomas that was present at that meeting, and myself, so do we both agree that they were the correct account of that meeting?
Yeah, why not?
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much. And item 6 on here is to receive the third of 3 monthly reports we've had from the Domesday project, or Bexhill Wild Domesday project. I'm going to suspend standing orders and allow David Dennis to address the committee. David, if you'd like to make your way to the chair here, then the camera will be able to pick up.
I'll just hand out the notes first of all.
Yes. Are these different from the actual notes that were circulated in advance?
These are notes that substitute for slides, and the slides will be sent to the gentleman who's operating the recording, and that will be inserted.
Okay.
But I thought, as I only had 10 minutes, it would be a lot to set up and close down
Yes.
in the middle of the meeting, so I thought it would be better to do it this way. And that's what I agreed it with Julie earlier on.
Thank you very much.
Good. So I'll come up there, shall I?
Yes, please.
Okay, but we've only got a short time, so I'll try to keep it nice and simple.
Okay.
So first of all, Bexhill Wild Domesday started on the 1st of June 2023, and at the moment it's funded for 2 years with a possibility on a vote for year 3, if everybody's happy with it. And the aims are assessment of current wildlife and landscape potential, which we're doing a lot of at the moment, increase conservation of water in the landscape, increase food chain potential for wildlife, protection of the seafront, involvement of the Bexhill population, very important, future warden team care of the environment. And the subjects for discussion this evening are the LNRS, the Local Nature Recovery Scheme, which is a legal requirement, which I'll explain to you, which has been placed on us by the government through DEFRA and through Sussex County Councils, West and East. Then the Sydney Woods Project, Galley Hill Conservation, public meetings for volunteers to be selected, but we'll start with the LNRS. Now, I attended the online briefing for the LNRS with the county ecologist, Dr. Kate Cole, and we went through a whole range of things, and I've selected some of the slides from the presentation on this leaflet. But a full set of slides will be sent to the gentleman who's operating the camera system, and he'll inject that into the film so that everybody in Bexhill can see the full set of slides. So the idea is that we try and rescue the collapse of nature. If you talk to taxi drivers, you'll find that there's hardly any flies on their windscreens anymore. Things are pretty desperate. One taxi driver said he'd had a good windscreen full of insects at Lid, but nothing around the Bexhill area. Things are gradually declining. Some butterflies are falling away, some birds are falling away on the red list, etc. And nationally and internationally, people are becoming very worried by the decline in biodiversity, really, the different kinds of things that we're losing through extinction. However, there is some good news in that we have rare bees which were formerly thought to be extinct now turning up at Galley Hill. And we also have other rare bees at Galley Hill. So Galley Hill is a very, very sensitive, rich area of wildlife which we need to conserve. So when the local nature recovery strategy is put in place for Bexhill, we need to consider all the different areas that we want to look after in Bexhill and put them forward as projects, but we need to involve the public. So if you look at the slides, you can see that the LNRS is a legal requirement, England-wide, with a landscape scale. The initial tranche of money that Sussex has is at £355,000, but it's expected that several million will be injected next year once everybody's put their plans in. And then we still wait to find out how we're to bid for that money in order to be able to enable these things. If you turn over to page 2, you can see that there is a rigorous process in which we look at Bexhill, we map existing valuable areas, gather the environmental issues that are most important to local people, collaborate for priorities. In other words, you as a committee, subject to the town clerk's decision, would say what you thought were the priorities, and then a plan would be put forward to the LNRS headquarters through Dr. Kate Cole in Lewes, and that plan would be inserted onto the document to show the government that Bexhill was taking part in this process. And then you can see on the next slide down on page 2 that we need ecological evidence, which we're obviously gathering at the moment, and what on the other side is very important is what local people tell us is important to them. So we need some kind of survey or conversation with people in the wards to find out what they think about nature, what they think about their own areas, what they feel is most sensitive, things they enjoy, woodland, walks, pools, lakes, anything that they really enjoy, we need to know about it. So we need to draw that information in. Then on page 3, you can see there's a set of measures. And these plans that we put forward to the government must be really realistically achievable in the next 5 to 8 years. So quite a lot of thinking needs to be done. When you come down to the next slide on page 3, you can see that there is a timetable for this. Between February and April, we need to get baseline evidence, which we're doing at the moment. Between March and July, we need to engage with people, which is why I'm going to ask that we have a public meeting. And then write up the strategy in the autumn, put it in for public consultation in early 2025, and then publish the Bexhill strategy for the LNRS in the summer of 2025. So, from the point of view of what the council needs to do in order to comply with this, if you're willing, is to survey the public and agree the project list. I can write the project list for you, and you can decide whether you like it or not, or you can do it yourselves because you talk to people in your own wards, or we can have a separate informal meeting to identify requirements ward by ward. Rother, I've talked to, and they didn't get the funds from DEFRA to cover Bexhill. They've done the Rother report already and sent it in. Maybe they will get money in 2025, but that'll be past the ESCC deadline, so we really need to do something in Bexhill. So obviously I'll be open to questions once I finish my little briefing about that, and anybody who wants to contact me and have a face-to-face briefing about the LNRS in detail, I'll be very happy to talk to you. If you'd like to turn over now to page 4, you can see that as part of the survey of wildlife, I negotiated a grant of £4,000 to digitise the 130 years of wildlife records for the whole of our area. And this has been completed in an outstanding way with immaculate character reading so that I can search 130 years of records by butterfly, by bird, by insect, everything that was spotted right back to Victorian times and up to the present day, last year. So we've got a magnificent database now which can be searched to compare which birds, which insects, which kinds of wildlife and plants we have lost and which ones we have gained, a kind of comparative survey. I'm now going around woodland by woodland surveying the bird life, and so far I've done several woodlands, and you can see how it works at the bottom in the diagram. There is what they've called a PUC AI, which is a small device full of electronics which listens to the sounds of birds, analyses those birds and gives you a percentage rating for the likelihood that that bird exists in that wood, for example. And that can be cross-checked using an app called Merlin. So you get 2 readings. You hold your mobile phone, you look at it, the PUC reader is on the other app on your phone, and you can see that it's likely that a tree creeper or a wren is there. And then you can say, in that wood, there are the following birds. So I've set the PUC, first PUC up in my back garden, and so far, within the scope of around about half a kilometre in each direction from my house and Sea Road, we've picked up 48 species. So obviously, pretty good, quite rich. I've done Collington Wood, Gilham Wood, Cooden Moat Wood, Cooden Wood, Marylebone Gardens, St Peter's Churchyard so far, and I'm gradually working as we go, but we're still in year 1, year 2 starts on the 1st of June, so we're doing pretty well. Now, I've got two PUCs, one that can be set up permanently in any site and one that goes on your backpack when you're walking around, and then you can upload that data to the international website, and then everybody in Bexhill will be able to log on to that website and see which birds are in Bexhill. Real time, live recordings of those birds. If you turn over to page 5, you can see that unfortunately Councillor Julie Norris, who I was working with to set up the evaluation of the Sidley Woods project, resigned, but she wrote to me yesterday saying that she definitely wants to carry on with it as a private person, and I've arranged for the South East Rivers Authority to come down and have a look at Sidley Woods, and they've said that the project is likely to be successful, and so they're going to come back in May and design a project which would then be submitted to Rother District Council for planning approval. And I've obviously had a meeting, a 1 hour meeting with Dr. Lucy Bolton in the town hall to make sure that Rother were happy with what I was trying to do. And one of the things that could be done in there is to plant trees which are gradually becoming extinct because they need a male and a female tree next to each other, and there are only between 100 and 600 female trees left in Britain, and that's the black poplar. And you may have seen that on television. It needs marshy, wet ground to be planted, and so that's possible to ideally plant that in Sidley Woods. So far I've raised £1,000 from the Chief Constable because it's Sidley and Sidley has social problems. The Chief Constable has gladly given me £1,000 towards that project, so it'll be a community project on the LNRS. Coming down to Galley Hill Conservation, I put into my 3-monthly report that it would be a good idea if we wrote to the Secretary of State to try and get things going, because Galley Hill is such a marvellous place, and obviously it's in Bexhill. We need to try and conserve those rare bees and other creatures that are there, especially the northern wheatear, which has been coming to the cliffs to feed on insects. Coming down a bit further, we have the issue of public meetings. Now, I've been talking to Bexhill Environmental Group, and I'll be talking to Sussex Wildlife Trust, because they've just got a new trainer who's able to train the volunteers. But I need Bexhill Town Council to pay, if they could, for the public liability insurance for the 18 volunteers and to provide a room where they can be trained, and that's obviously subject to discussion. Most of all, I need a firm date in July confirming that you have booked St Barnabas Church like you did in 2022, and provision of a microphone system and catering, so that we can hold a public meeting to advise the public about the LNRS and also to call for volunteers. And Bexhill Environmental Group have agreed to use their newsletters to advertise that meeting so that we get some response. And in early June, there will also be a meeting at the Friends of Coombe Valley Discovery Centre, and I'll be having a marquee there on behalf of Bexhill Wild Domesday, and we'll be handing out leaflets asking for people to come forward as volunteers, so that by the end of July we should have a list of volunteers and we can get going. Thank you.
Thank you very much, David. Very, very interesting and very thorough in your approach to all this. Councillors, have we got any questions for David while he's here?
I had one, I'm trying to catch it up, and that's simply through your chair. What's it envisages that the volunteers would be doing? There was a second one comes after that. But what would the volunteers be doing?
Okay, the idea that I put forward a couple of years ago was that in the same way as we started the ward service for Friends of Coombe Valley back in 2013, that there would be people who were going round their own ward looking to see whether there had been any damage to trees, any fly tipping, that there were any opportunities for increase in, for example, pollination plants, talking to the public and saying, these are the recommended plants you can put into your garden. General advisor, it wouldn't be a policing thing and it wouldn't be a disciplinary thing, it would be an observation thing. Is your ward being looked after properly, is what I'm aiming at.
Okay, my follow on from that is because that public meeting should be, I know you're wonderful what you're doing about the public woods, I'm just thinking there's a whole mass of gardens out there that we should be getting people to somehow submit information. I mean, I've got the Merlin app and I use it all the time, which tells you what bird you're listening to. But it's how we can involve people in. Is there a way that people could get involved just with their gardens? That they
Yes.
didn't want to
Well, the very first thing I did was to publish a PDF in agreement with Sussex Wildlife Trust about 10 plants that you should put into your front garden. The idea being that there would be a bee corridor down the roads, that in all the roads where there are front gardens,
Yeah.
if everybody had plants that were attractive to insects, hoverflies and bees, then that would help to increase the total amount of pollination within Bexhill. What unfortunately hasn't gone right is that some councillors have talked to me about what they are interested in their wards, and unfortunately more than half of the councillors haven't talked to me. So 61% of the councillors haven't said that they want to know about this project. And so I'm hoping that if we have a public meeting and we get the public involved, we can garner information from the public. But most of all, what I'd really like is, with the town clerk's permission, some informal way of talking to all the councillors for a half an hour, 3/4 of an hour with a presentation, so that they can understand what is required for the LNRS.
I was going to say two more things. I was thinking more of people giving you information from their gardens, from it, you know, to get a picture of wildlife in Bexhill. That was my thought.
That was the idea of the wardens. With the
Yeah.
wardens would go around and talk to them, and
And
then
talk
they
to
would
people,
feed
yeah.
back to me.
Yeah.
Now, we're designing a training course for the wardens. There's also this specialist who's just been taken on by Sussex Wildlife Trust for a year. And there's Bexhill Environmental Group who already do a fantastic job. And so we're designing. So Dr. Barry Yates, who's one of our CIC directors, has agreed to do advanced training for the wardens. I will do the basic training, and we will then call in other people. For example, Dr. John Feltwell will come and talk about trees. We'll get Sussex Wildlife Trust to come and talk about, say, butterflies or mammals, etc. And gradually enrich these people's knowledge. We'll give them books, British Guide to Birds, etc., etc. We'll actually give them the material. So they'll become the, inverted commas, amateur specialists in their ward. That's the idea. I mean, if you felt that it was too expensive because of the insurance side of it, then it would leave me to do the same thing, which would obviously take me longer. I mean, I don't mind going around every woodland. I enjoy it. I would quite happily survey all the wards. But ideally, it should be to refine local interest in nature in your particular ward. And at the moment, some councillors have been happy to talk about it, and unfortunately some haven't.
Okay. Councillor Thomas, did you have a question at all? No? Okay. There's a lot of possible logistical challenges on this, and some of it we will be answering in the course of the committee meeting here. In particular, the St Barnabas event we'll be picking up as we go through on item 8 on here. But what I would ask you to do, if you could liaise with the town clerk regarding some of the other aspects on here, and actually sort of work out the direction that's going to take, because there's some aspects that we can help you with, as other aspects that other statutory bodies will be able to have a better input into it to help the project on. So, Councillor Drayson.
Maybe it's not a silly question, but do we have to, as the three of us, ask the clerk to go and look at the implications for the insurance?
That's one of the subjects that will be discussed.
Yeah, because it's not for Mr. Dennis to ask the clerk to do stuff. I mean, just it's for us to ask the clerk to do stuff. So
okay then.
That's what's in my brain.
I will pass it to the committee. Is everybody of the opinion that we instruct the clerk to liaise with Mr. Dennis regarding the plans that he's put forward in this presentation? All those in favour, please raise your hand. That's carried unanimously. Okay, thank you. Okay,
Thank you.
thank you very much. Right, moving on to item 7, to receive notes and recommendations from working groups. 7A, the Town Accessibility Working Group. This group is going to be formed after the AGM in May, once we've got a full complement of councillors onto committees, and then we can discuss where that will be going with that. Item 8, Bexhill-on-Sea Project, as we've just been hearing about. And there's a couple of information points to note on here. One of which that full council has decided to support Mr David Dennis to write to the Secretary of State and support for an extension of the site of special scientific interest for Coombe Valley to cover it over the Galley Hill area. So we've supported that what's the word I'm looking for? That letter to go to the Environment Secretary of State for the Environment. Item 8A2, to note the updates of the Coombe Haven CIC and to investigate a position for a council on the CIC. Now we have been in touch with Coombe Valley CIC, but they haven't been replying back to us at the moment. So we're not too sure whether they've sort of inundated with people that are volunteering, and so they're just sort of waiting for them to get to us, or whether they are not too sure of where our positioning within the local structure. But the clerk is going to sort of try another couple of times and report back to us as to where we stand with that at the moment. But we are trying to make contact with them. Item 8A3, to receive an update and publicise the events that David Dennis holds and the plans for future similar event to the previous climate action event. Now, you mentioned in your presentation that you were looking for a public meeting. We have secured St Barnabas and we have a date, and that is the 13th of July. Wow. It's just for this committee to agree that they're okay for that meeting to go ahead. We've been in liaison with them and they've said that date is available. All I just need from this committee is to agree that we will put that forward. So I put it through as a motion. Have I got a seconder for that motion? Councillor Drayson, all those in favour? And that's carried unanimously. That is done. It's done. Item 8.4, and this is to receive an update on the clerk on the workings with Mr Dennis and see if plans could be moved forward. I think that will be picked up, no doubt, in your conversations as you go forward from your presentation now, unless the clerk has got anything further to say.
No, through you, Chair, it's year end for the Town Council, so it's not our best time. So until we've done our year end audit, all of our closing down of accounts and stuff, we don't have the capacity right now. Yeah. But I've already mentioned to David that, and that I'll be in touch with him once we have some resources to be able to talk about our next steps.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much. Right, moving forward, item 9, environmental matters. This is just to point out item 9A. The Welcome to Bexhill signs have been approved. Invoice to supply and install 4 signs came to £5,750 and 16p.
Sorry, is that for us to approve it?
This is just to approve the invoice and supply and install 4 signs. I think we've actually agreed this, have we?
You've agreed it all, but you never had the final price.
Right.
So I wanted to make sure that you approved the final price before we press the button.
Okay, all right. Can we have we all agree to that one. Thank you very much. And this is to replace the 2A259 exiting signs and replace the Ninfield Road sign and install a new sign on the Coombe Valley Way. Item 9B, to note Wave Arts is to be invited to the next Amenities Committee to discuss ways of dealing with graffiti issues. So they will be coming along to the next committee meeting for the amenities. 9C, another meeting being arranged for the 10th of July, Wednesday the 10th of July. This is with Southern Water to discuss the sewage release issues on Galley Hill. And this will be a public meeting. They have, remember a couple of times we've been asking for meetings and they were held on Saturday. Unfortunately, they could not make Saturdays, and so Wednesday is the most convenient time for them, 2:30 in the afternoon. And I'm not too sure if a venue has been sought for that
I
yet.
think we're booking St John's, but I'll
Right.
double check and let you
Okay.
know once it's all booked.
So councillors will be notified of the venue as soon as that's arranged.
Can I, on that one, Chair, just ask, it's strange because obviously we're just this committee, but about 3 weeks ago, as a Rother District Councillor, I had a guided tour of the sewage works at off Coombe Valley. I wonder if through that person it would be worth them writing to our council and offer that a visit.
Yeah, I
It
mean,
partly explains why the sewage, but you also...
to be honest with you, this is the way, it strikes me as the weird and wonderful way local government works, because it's a district event, no doubt. It's in Bexhill, and it affects a lot of the parishes around Bexhill as well, not just Bexhill Town Council. And you would have thought it would have been a courtesy for the district council to invite the parish councils along to that event.
Hastings as well. It was
And
Southern Water were doing the inviting.
yeah, well,
And it was to Hastings
And
and to
this is-
Wealdon
this
because
is
of where the sewage comes from.
and this is the problem we're having, because Southern Water are not
Yeah.
buying in. Because you're statutory authority at the district, they automatically want to keep the district councillors informed of everything that's going on and neglect to keep
So,
the parish councillors
To answer
informed.
my own question, I will just ask that person to contact the clerk with that offer because it may put us on the radar again.
It would be a very good idea if you could do that, yeah. But a bit of joined up thinking from the district to us would be quite nice on that effect. But we will see. Item 9D, Town Rangers. Just to note, this project hasn't progressed at the moment, and this is due to current workloads. No doubt once the new municipal year is in place, then we will get the ball rolling on that particular project. 9E, Bexhill and Bloom. There have been meetings with the committee in Bexhill in Bloom, and we have mentioned the project regarding bee stops. It will be added to their agenda as well as future agendas for ourselves, and we look forward to see that project developing. 9F, Emergency Resiliation Plan. This plan cannot proceed without 2 volunteers from each ward to implement emergency plans and consider next step. This is quite a difficult one from a parish council perspective, because we need to sort of liaise quite rigorously with the district regarding this, because they will have more of a liaison with the statutory authorities. Remember, this came about as we were newly formed as a town council, and we were hot on the end of the COVID pandemic, and so it was deemed to be the ideal thing for a parish council to get involved in. But I think we've found some logistical challenges in actually going forward with this. It's something that we can either carry on to look into, whether we wish to play a part in this, or whether we wish to sort of take a back seat on this for a moment and wait until we've seen what any plans developed by the district.
Yeah, through you, Chair. I mean, that was, as you say, I mean, it came at the end of COVID, and of course when COVID started, as well as the district council having responsibilities, we immediately saw in Bexhill the Bexhill Emergency Action create volunteers, and that did involve some councillors, but in other places the parish councils were the sort of seat that people go to. Because again, the requirement would be on the district council to do something. It would be nice to have something in our back pocket, but I'm almost to say we've got to wait till an emergency happens.
I think where it worked perfectly well was in the rural parishes,
Yeah.
where the district tends to be a little bit more remote in their approach on things, and parishes were able to kick in with a lot more emergency and a lot more impact.
Well, and also because of the size, they knew who their vulnerable people. They knew from the village where people were, where in Bexhill is.
Yeah, exactly. So I think it's one of those. If the committee wishes to, we take off the agenda, but it's something we should always keep considering in our back pocket to maybe sort of in discussions with the district as we go forward into the next municipal year. Does everybody agree with taking it off the agenda?
Yes.
Yeah. All those in favour? Yes, agreed. Thank you very much. Okay, 9G. Just to note, the new verge cutting season has begun, and we will sort of look to see the verges being cut with a more regular occurrence due to our input. Unfortunately, the wet weather hasn't been to their advantage at the moment, and so no doubt once the sun comes out and starts drying up the verges, there will be a spurt of grass growing everywhere, and they will be inundated with work to do then. Okay, item 10, highway matters. To note, there have been no updates on the strengthening local relationships meeting. This is with Sussex Highways. We're still waiting for that to develop, and this is one of those as well. Is it worth keeping that on the committee, or do we just sort of wait until it resurrects itself again? It's taken a lot of time of our admin staff to constantly write letters to the Highways Authority and ask for them to meet us, and they are not prepared to meet us at the moment.
I would suggest we take it off. We get quite a good input from Councillor Hollidge, who seems to lead on roads and highways, and as well as the other two East Sussex councillors. And I think we can use them as a route in if we need to, because I think highways are very much a law to themselves, and roadworks appear with no warning, and other roadworks sort of. And I must admit, I did think their function of licensing things, part of that was to say to somebody, no, don't dig there this week because somebody's already digging there, but they don't seem to even consider that when they issue licences. And Little Common has got 2 lots going at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
I know one's an emergency gas leak, but they've only worked 2 out of the 10 days looking for the gas leak.
Yeah.
So I would say take that off, but let's remember that we've got our East Sussex councillors who can
Exactly,
take that forward
Councillor.
for us.
Councillor Thomas, are you okay with that? We take it off the agenda?
Oh, I'd rather leave it on there. I think we ought to keep an eye on what they're doing there.
Mm-hmm.
There's been nothing for at least 6 weeks or more. I don't know.
We have never had a meeting with them, despite us asking to have a meeting with them. It has just not materialised. No doubt the Highways Department is inundated with potholes and various other aspects, but predominantly potholes. And so either they're not wishing to discuss potholes any further with yet another parish, or they're just inundated with work.
Is there anything to be gained by? I know Councillor Hodge last time referred to the fact we had a new warden, a new road steward. In Bexhill.
Yeah.
And I wonder if it would be worth getting the road steward, probably not allowed to, but something from the road steward to explain the system that they use. And we've all seen white lines around potholes, and then they fill the one next to it and leave that one.
I will ask the clerk what the logistical challenges to that would be. Us asking
They might not be allowed.
East county officer to address town council.
For you to no, they're operational. So the steward will go out, identify items and liaise to get them fixed. The SLR meeting, the strengthening relationships, is about you having a regular meeting with an officer at the county that can tell you about the high-risk matters that are bothering you. For example, we said we'd take forward on the agenda bollards outside the shoe shop,
That's right.
where they keep getting cars driving in and things like that. And what we were told by the county councillors was we need to take that forward in these sorts of meetings to get those things addressed. So I'd recommend you keep pushing
I would
for
keep
a
that
meeting.
then, because we should do something about the zebra crossings. The
thing that's held it up is the officers have changed. So we've gone to one, we've been given one officer's name, then we chase and chase and chase. Then they say we can have a meeting, but we need the agenda 6 weeks before the meeting. Then we don't present an agenda 6 weeks before because our meeting doesn't tie in. Then they cancel the meeting. Then we had another officer change. So I think we might need a bit of resilience.
Yeah.
I think you should have one
No,
because then you can sit with the officers that actually do these jobs and talk to them about the hotspots in Bexhill that you want
I was going to
addressed.
say, because in 6 weeks they won't have changed. So even if they're waiting for 6 weeks, it won't have changed. It'll be the same things on the agenda.
And I think on one of the other agendas we've got to speak about sinkholes and things like that.
Yeah.
That's the sort of meeting that you can talk to the officer about and get that information. So I wonder if we should just keep pushing.
Yes.
I know it's a bit of a slog, but we'll get there in the end, I think.
Okay, so everybody's in agreement
Just
to
keep going.
keep it on the agenda. Okay.
Yeah.
Moving on to 10B, grip bins. Note the final cost of a grip bin was £423.24. We have realised that these grip bins are supplied by East Sussex County Council, and although we're paying for them, they are the property of East Sussex County Council. They do not have our logo on there, so there's no one knows that we've actually paid for them, and so this is one of the aspects that when we do talk to the officers in the strengthening local relationship meetings, we could possibly inquire into that, whether it's possible to have the Bexhill Town Council logo on the ones that we're supplying.
So do they fill them?
Yes.
They fill.
Yeah, I just had a question. Why are we paying for somebody else's property?
We've been asked to by residents because there wasn't one available. If you look at the next item on here, we've been asked a grip bin in the Pebsham area as well.
Do you know where that is?
Yes, it's on the corner of Kimber Lane and Darlington.
Sorry?
In the corner of Kimber Lane and Darlington in Pebsham.
Oh. Yes, because there's another one down in Roundacre Way. It's about 20 years old. It's falling apart in order.
This is the exact reason why we keep the SLR meetings going. So once we have that first meeting, this is the type of thing we'll be discussing with them.
Yeah. Yes,
Well,
they moved it and then put it back. I'm told it's on top of the drain and it needs moving over, which I'm clearing to see whether or not there is a drain there or whether it is actually on the drain and the new one's got to be put further over.
Okay.
Nothing to do with the council, it's just a private...
So they should be replacing their ones, aren't they? These are extras that we're buying.
These are extra ones, or ones that have fallen into disrepute and do need to be repaired as well. But there's only one we've supplied so far. This is the other another one, a request for another one at in the Pebsham area. So that takes out item B and C in one foul swoop there. So we move on to item 11, allotment sites. And this is to receive 2 reports, one from the Sydney House allotment site and one from the Preston Road allotment site. I must admit, I'm really, really impressed with how our officer has managed to put these reports together, and there's a lot of information there, a lot of detailed information. Has anyone got any questions they wish to ask regarding this?
Yes, I've looked through these. I can't find anywhere that refers to hard standing for cars and also the lane down. When we walked down there, it was boggy.
We don't own the lane. and we've got no jurisdiction on the lane there. That's down to, I believe, Rother District Council. Our boundary is within the actual allotment site, and that's all we are looking at the moment, is that allotment site. So the report is only about the site.
Right. Yes, sir.
No doubt, if we've got concerns regarding that access to it, we should be talking to the district councillors there and seeing if they've got any plans to.
Yeah, just something that arose talking to people. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are we okay to accept both of these reports? You're happy with that? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Item 11B, to consider extending the lease term for Summerhill allotments. They've currently got coming to nearly to the end of their lease, and they would like to extend it ideally for a 25-year period. And they just we need council approval for them to do that. Has anyone got any thoughts regarding?
How long is the existing lease?
I beg your pardon?
How long is the existing lease for?
I believe the existing lease was for 20 years.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just,
Yeah.
because there was nothing with it. I mean, when you say they extended the lease, you mean the association wants to extend the lease that we now have?
No, we own the property,
Yeah.
and they are leasing it off of us,
Yeah.
and they're managing it themselves, and there's no implication financially to us at all. They just want another lease for 25 years, so they've got security in order for them to go for funding.
That's what I thought. I just wanted to check that because there's nothing with
Yeah.
it. So yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
Fine.
All in favour?
Yeah.
Agreed, thank you very much. That's 25 years, yeah. Right, item 11C, to note signs being replaced due to damage at the Summerhill allotments. There are a number of, and to be honest with you, it's not just damage, it's age as well. There are obsolete phone numbers and contact details on these, so we'll now be able to put our own sort of signs up there, directing them to our own officers, issues that are due to be reported from those particular sites. Also to note that Barrack Hall are having drainage issues, and they're being investigated at the moment, and this is due to, this is an area of allotment where they have got hard standing area there, parking area, and they would like hard standing to be reinstated. It's going to be a bit of a new build, and so they've got an issue. Oh, sorry, not new build, I'm getting confused with this. The issue they've got with this hard standing area is that they've had a new build off-site at the back of the allotments, which is through an extension of a house, and the water is draining off of that new build onto the allotment site as well. So there's two sort of particular aspects to look at here. One is the hard standing area that needs to be cleared, and the other aspect is the drainage issue that's caused from the new build.
But surely the building, it shouldn't drain onto adjacent property.
I think that's
You're
a
quite
reason
right.
for us to write to the enforcement.
Yeah. It is actually doing this, and it's causing one allotment holder not to be able to utilise his plot because of the water that's draining off onto his plot. Now they've come to us as the owners of the site, although they do lease it from us, in order to sort of investigate that further. Investigations are going underway already, and it's just to make you aware that the process is taking place. I don't think there's any sort of feedback from that other than what I've
Not yet.
said there.
We're speaking to them, so yeah, I'm waiting to find out.
So we're just waiting for that information to come forward to us. No doubt at one of the next committee meetings we will have the information now and whether there is actually building work to take place or not. Or any comeback from the actual property owner that's causing the problem. Also to note 11E that we will be having a presentation at a future meeting from the Bexhill Family Collective. They work off one of our allotments as well, so they're doing great work there, and we'll be getting some good information from them, no doubt.
Looks like they're doing quite a good job there.
It does. Item 12, neighbourhood plan. This is to note that an advert has gone out already seeking members for a steering group for the neighbourhood plan. Now, a steering group can be made up of any members of the public. They are not a decision-making body. They are just information gathering in order to put forward into the neighbourhood plan. One aspect I would like to put forward, and that is to suggest that, well, actually put a motion forward to pass the neighbourhood plan from this committee into the planning committee, because that's where it should sit. It ended up on this committee, and previous groups of councillors have reluctant to let it onto the planning committee. It probably wouldn't have gone onto the planning committee if the planning committee had been merged into full council, but now we have a standalone planning committee still. It just seems perfect sense for the neighbourhood plan process and everything associated with the neighbourhood plan to go into the planning committee.
Through you, Chair, I was just going to say, having failed to get rid of the planning advisory committee, yes, let's give it something more to do.
Councillor Thomas, are you in agreement with that?
Well, yes, I mean, turning up for a meeting that lasts 7 minutes, we need a bit more to do, so I'm happy with that.
Okay, then all those in favour of passing the neighbourhood plan work onto the planning committee. Thank you very much. Item 13, sorry, Councillor Drayton.
Does that have to be agreed by full council, ultimately? Because we're giving, it's not our place to give jobs to somebody else, presumably that needs...
It will come up at the full council when we talk about the new committee structure. Yeah. Item 13, finance and administration. The details are all laid out there. No doubt you've had a chance to look through them, and they are what they are, the ins and outs of the budget. Any comments? I will move swiftly on then to item 14, which is the community infrastructure levy. This is to note that full council's decision that £60,000 of the SIL funds are to be spent on allotment safety measures, which was greatly received, because there's a lot of work to be done on those allotments, as we've seen in the report there. Also, item 14B, to note that the remaining SIL money, and to consider the next step. If you remember, we submitted some plans, although not budgeted and costed. They were tentative plans of future projects that we thought were going to be developing through the community committee. These were regarding the re-greening of certain areas of Bexhill. One project that springs to mind is the St Leonard's re-greening project, although it's not born into a position at the moment where they've come to us for any money. We fully expect that we could be a body that they come to, or there are other re-greening areas in the town that will come to us as well. Anti-graffiti projects, again, we've been working with various agencies, Wave Arts being one of them, but they haven't come to us with a particular project yet. We're just waiting for that to happen, but we've put money aside for that if it happens. Bins and dog bins as well, another project that we were looking into developing, hasn't developed yet, but we were putting money aside for that in the event that it was going to develop. And planting of areas of Bexhill as well. Again, it's a project that hasn't fully developed yet. So they're projects that are bubbling away under there but haven't fully formed to come forward to us yet. And I just wanted to know whether, as a committee, we're considering reapplying back to finance and saying, look, our projects are still there, still bubbling under. We want this, the money that we asked for. It's our budget within the. Or are we going to wait until the new committee's structure comes together and they make the request?
I personally would suggest wait to the new structure, because I would actually rather this was not with this committee and it went to finance anyway, but that's for a discussion.
So how do you expect committees to go ahead with projects then if they've got to go to finance all the time?
Well, no, committees can have budgets,
But not allowed to
I
spend
just think
them?
the SIL budget, community infrastructure budget, which there was some pressure on to spend quickly, needs to be under the finance committee. That.
Okay, yeah.
But I mean, committees will still get budgets
Yeah.
from.
Yes, but we decide what we want to spend and then we shove it over to finance or council. We can't decide that we are going to spend a certain sum of money, apart from the small sums. Do you think it should go on to the next committee?
Yeah, or till
Yeah, I agree.
This
Until the next
is
committee
not-
structure.
this committee is becoming
Yep.
another thing, isn't it?
Okay, yeah. Point made,
And
yeah.
presumably we will delegate the work of the committees that are going to where we want them to, like you just said about moving that one.
Okay then. We will defer that until the
Rather than
formation.
the three of us, rather than the three of us
Exactly.
deciding.
Exactly. It's a shame that there's just three of us here because we could have had a bit more of a debate over this, couldn't we? But it is what it
Well,
is.
you had two of us disagreeing, now the audience.
Exactly. Okay, then we move swiftly on. Motion 15. There are no motions from councillors. Item 16, correspondence. There is no correspondence. So item 17, questions carried forward to the last meeting. There are none. Are there any questions wishing to go forward to the next meeting? Bearing in mind that it will be a newly formed committee as we go forward. So I very much doubt if there'll be any questions to go forward. He says, hopefully. Okay then. Item 18, to note full council's decision to transfer the terms of reference of the C&E committee to the amenities committee as of May 24, and therefore that completes the work of this committee meeting, and thank you very much. Meeting closed.
Thank you, Chair.